Uh, Hi, everybody. I'm sorry about today's lecture. It didn't go according to plan. I'll cover the rest of the content that I wanted to cover today in this video. Uh, let's go back to where we stopped the lecture. My name is Praveen, if you guys didn't already know. We went through setting up Visual Studio Code. So if you guys are using a Mac, please set up a Visual Studio Code application in your laptops to try this out. And from next week, if you guys face issues with your PCs in the lab, please bring your laptops as well, along with Visual Studio Code setup so that we wouldn't have those issues. In case your PCs don't work as intended, we could use your laptops and move ahead. And those of you who use Windows laptops could also use Notepad++. We saw how to create a new file. I'll quickly go through that whole process again. You would do a new file. You would do your whatever your name of your file had to be. So say webpage.html. This HTML extension is really important because that's when your PC knows that it's a HTML file, and you select your location to save it to. It could be anything, and create a file. So once you're done creating the file, you go through the basic HTML syntax, which is doc type HTML. And as you can see, Visual Studio Code helps you out with the coding process. It auto-completes a lot of the code by itself. And as you can see here, if I put in the HTML tag, it will automatically give me a slash HTML, which is the closing tag. As we went through, HTML has a lot of tags, head. Let me do head, which contains the metadata, the body tag, and so on. And as we went through, this is a typical structure of a HTML document. You indicate the document type, HTML, open the HTML tag, mention your metadata in the head part, and the content that needs to be displayed in the browser in the body part. So to make it easier, to make it faster, I have it open right here. We went through this in class, but I'll go through it again. Meta cache set is basically, it defines your encoding type. And your encoding is basically the way your PC converts, your computer converts characters and other special emojis or numbers to bits. And you're mentioning that here it's UTF-8. We have multiple encoding types, UTF-16. We have ASCII encoding. We have a lot of encoding types, and UTF-8 is one of the mostly commonly used techniques. And we saw that to include a comment, you would do this. So an exclamation mark and 2 hyphens, along with 2 hyphens, and the closing tag thing would be a comment. You would use comments to comment out your code so that other people reading your code could better understand your code. And if you're working at a firm, someone else who works along with you, if they had to take over from your project, or if you were leaving the firm, they would be able to better understand the code if you had comments written in it. So make sure to add comments. And the title part of your web page is where is what will show up on your web page when on the top of your taskbar. So as you can see, it shows my first web page here, and which is exactly what we had inside title. So this is what will show up in the taskbar. And we close the head tag. In body, we do hello world, and P, as I mentioned in class, is the paragraph tab. So you can see a small space. It constructs a paragraph. And if you wanted to do something else, the way you just want the PC to display what you want. So for example, let's do multiple spaces here. Let's save this file and then reload it. So you would see that it still shows only one space. These multiple spaces haven't been included in it. But if I instead do pre, which is another tag, just like the P tag, P is used for paragraph. And if I save it now, you would see that it spaces it out a lot better, the way you want it to space it out. because pre just does what you ask it to do, and paragraph just constructs a paragraph. And you can also see the font changed from something else to another different font. And this basically is not a paragraph anymore. So this is what you would use pre for. So now I'll go back to the slides. We've gone through all of this. We went through these as well. I wanted to show you guys this in class, and again, it did not work, but we'll do it now. So I'll Google the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And let's pull out the poem. Copy the poem, the entire poem, and paste it inside your P tag. Let's switch this back to P. I hope it's visible for you guys. If not, I can zoom in. I hope it's a little clear. Yep, I'll have this closed. And inside your P tag, let's paste this. Oh, I think I copied it properly. Let me copy it again. And now paste it here. And let's make sure we indent it the right way. Again, indentation is not something that is a must do, that your program will not work if you don't do, but it's a good thing to do to make sure the program is readable. So I know that I have a HTML document. Inside my HTML document, I have a head tag, which contains the metadata. And inside that, I have meta charset, which mentions the encoding type. And inside head, again, I have title. So it makes it a lot easier, the structure, to read the code. If not, it'll be a little more complicated. So now let's save this, save, and let's reload our web page. As you can see here, let me move you can see here that it just writes it as a paragraph. It does not display a poem. We want a poem in a structured manner as we input it here. So if we use the pre tag for this, pre and /pre, and let's save this, you would notice that it writes it as a poem the way you want it to. So this is what I wanted to show in class. I'm really sorry I couldn't, but hopefully this makes up for it. And yeah, so we have gone through what the PRE tag does. What you see is what you get with PRE. P creates a paragraph and inserts a blank line before and after each P element, as we mentioned. So we'll see what PR and HR does. PR is break rule and horizontal rule. We'll see what those two commands do. I'll zoom out a little bit. So let's go back to hello world to make it easier. It's a big poem. And let's change this back to the P tag. So break rule and horizontal rule don't need a closing tag. So in this case, if I do break rule, let's see what it does. This is the best way to learn HTML, by just doing things, by just adding tags in different places and seeing what happens, right? So as you can see, it gives out an entire blank space until the end of the line, this entire thing. It breaks the line and prints out the next thing in a new line. As you can see, it starts with world. And let's do a horizontal rule and see what happens now. You can see here that it creates a line. It draws a line throughout the entire place to the entire width of the web page, and then outputs world. So for these two, since they are not, it doesn't really have a start and an end point, it's just the length of the width of your web page, you don't really need a closing tag. These are some of the tags, BR and HR, and are some examples of the tags that don't need a closing tag. You don't need a /p version of it in this case. So it's something to remember. And yeah, break rule, it breaks the line and it starts a new line, and horizontal rule creates a line. Let's go back to the presentation. H1 to H6. These are different headings, and let's look into that now. Let's do, instead of P and /P, let's try out the H tag. Let me zoom in again to make it easier for you guys. Command ++. So let's start off with H1. So these are basically headings. We use H for headings, and let me show you what it does. It does it in different font sizes. So basically H1 would be the biggest heading size, and it would keep decreasing as you go. So it goes on until H6. You could use it for having headings in your code where you need headings of different sizes, different heights. So do it along with me and please try it out. HTML is best learned by doing and not by looking or just reading. As you can see, heading 1 displays the biggest heading size, and heading 2 smaller, 3 even smaller, 4, 5, and 6, and so on. So it goes on from H1 to H6, and you could use this in your web page for having headings for certain things, or a start of a new portion of your web page. And we went through meta char set, and this is basically the encoding type for your HTML document. You could use UTF-18 or other encodings, but UTF-8 is the most recommended, the most widely used one. So we can stick to that for now. And I can explain encoding if any of you are interested in depth later on, but it's beyond the scope of this course. You can feel free to reach out to me during office hours or lab hours, and I'll feel free to explain. And let's move on to italics and bold, I and B tag. So let's do this, and instead of heading 1, I'll do I. And let's see what happens. And let's do B instead of heading 2. And let's see what happens here. Save your code every time you change it. And as you can see here, it made the heading 1 in italics and heading 2 in bold. But if you notice here, we removed heading 1 and heading 2, and they're just italicized and bold inside body. The body is a portion of your code which basically displays content in your web page, right? It's the part of the thing that you can see on your web page. So what would happen? What do you think would happen if we put italics in bold inside the H1 and H2 tags? Let's try it out. So again, better increase the readability. Let's do this. And let's close the H1 tag here. And let's do the same, but instead do it bold, B2, and let's indent it the right way so that it's easily readable. As you can see now, we have the heading 1, and we print heading 1 inside the H1 tag in italics, and we print heading 2 inside the H2 tag in bold. And let's see what happens now. Let's save the code and reload. As you can see, it maintains the heading height, but it italicizes the first heading. But since headings by itself are in bold, you don't see a difference here, but you would see it if it was normal text. If I removed, instead of heading 2, if I just gave heading 2 without inside the body without the p tags. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it looks. File, save, and reload your web page. You can see it's not in bold anymore. But if I put in the p tag now, and save my file, reload, you can see that it is in bold, but not in heading 2 because we'd use heading 2. So it's a little smaller. It's in the paragraph size of font. So now we've seen what italics in bold does. Let's move on to NBSP. So NBSP adds a non-breaking space. It is not a tag. So tags are enclosed by the greater than and lesser than symbol, as you see here. Every tag has that. And NBSP is not a tag. It's an entity. So entities, I'll first show you what NBSP does so that you guys understand. Let's say 10 p.m. for example. 10 ampersand NBSP PM. Let's remove the headings for now and the italics. Let's remove all this. We'll just stick to body. And let's see what it does. Save, reload. You can see that it leaves a space out, a non-breaking space between 10 and PM, but we didn't include that. We just put an NBSP. So you might ask, what is the difference between using just an NBSP and just doing 10 PM like this? So the main difference is something that you cannot see. What happens is it groups, it glues the characters together. When you say 10:30 p.m., even though it's displayed as 10:30 p.m. without when you just include a space and not NBSP, it's not considered one character. So when say it's rolling over the web page from here and it splits the characters, it would split into 10:30 here and PM here in the start of a new line after the end of the line, which is ideally not what we want. We want 10:30 p.m. in one go. It's one single character, even though it has a space in between. So NBSP would basically make 10:30 p.m. the equivalent of one word, and it would move either 10:30 p.m. entirely to a new line here, or it would just make it fit here. It wouldn't sort of in a web page roll over saying 10 here and 30 p.m. here or so on. And that is ideally what we want in cases where we're using something like 10:30 p.m. And it also doesn't let the user use more than one space with a space bar key. So like I already showed you guys before, if you do multiple spaces and save, it'll still be the same. It'll still be 10 p.m. with just one space. Instead, if we do ampersand NBSP, which is a space, which is the equivalent of a space, and say paste in multiple lines, with the p tag, without the p tag, doesn't matter. It leaves out multiple spaces. And as we saw before, this can only be done without the NBSP tag if you're using the PRE tag, which just does what you wanted to, which just displays what you wanted to display. So it would be the same as doing PRE, 10 p.m. and PRE. So let's save it and reload it. And as you can see, it leaves out the space, but it does change the font to a different font. And now let's cover lists. You will have to do this in your assignment. You'll have to use this in your second assignment, lists and tables. So I'll go through that as quickly as I can. We have two types of lists, unordered lists and ordered lists. Unordered lists are basically your bullet points, and ordered lists are lists where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, or Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, and so on. So a normal thing that you would use in a Word document, And we use the li tag to list elements inside nested lists. I'll show you an example here. Let me zoom out and go to the file path. I already had it coded so that I don't waste time. I will put it here inside the body. So you guys can do the same. Please code this out. You can pause the video here and code along with me and put it in the body part of your code, preferably the entire thing, the entire list, and I'll show you what happens. I'll give you a few seconds to pause and type this code down. Okay, now let's get going. As you can see here, inside body, we're creating a UL tag, which is an unordered list, as I mentioned, and every li tag is a list item. So it creates an unordered list here of coffee, tea, and milk, right? So let's first do just that. Let's remove this. Not complicate things. Inside body, we're creating an unordered list. Let's save it and let's see what happens. It's just 3 items, coffee, tea, and milk, as we saw, as we wanted the code to do. Unordered list, and every time you want a list, every time you want a bullet point, you start off with the li tag, finish off the li tag, and inside that, coffee, tea, and milk, and that's exactly what we see. So now let's include the remaining code as well, and let's see what happens. Before we go into it, I'll explain what this code does. Again, we're creating an unordered list here, and we're listing out coffee and tea just like this. But instead of doing milk in just an unordered list, we're creating an ordered list inside an unordered list. As you can see, we have the OL tag in between the UL tag and the /UL tag, which is enclosed within the unordered list. And you have an OL tag, which is an ordered list. And you have, again, li tag lists an ordered list, which lists out black tea in 1, green tea as 2, and that becomes the end of the ordered list. And then it lists out milk inside the unordered list. And this is when you can see indentation helps. So you can easily read the code and you can tell, okay, coffee and tea are inside, coffee, tea, and milk are inside the unordered list, and black tea and green tea is inside the ordered list. And this is why I suggest spacing it out like this so that you better understand the code. Let's save it and run it. As you can see, we have coffee, tea, milk repeating twice. Let me remove this. It confuses it a little bit. I'll save this and reload. So we have coffee, tea, and as I mentioned, black tea in ordered list inside the unordered list, and green tea in an ordered list inside the unordered list, and then milk. So this is what we called nested, a nested way of doing. If you notice, it's inside the body tag, there's the unordered list, which is nested inside the body tag. And again, we list inside the unordered list in a nested way. And the ordered list inside the unordered list is a nested way. So this is what we call a nested way of programming, and preferably what we like. So now that we've seen how to list elements, let's go to tables, quickly cover tables as well. The table tag is just enclosed within the 2 greater than and lesser than symbol, and it's table inside. TR defines a row, a beginning of a new row. TH is used for defining a row header. TD for a table cell. And we'll see an example of this. And you guys can pause the video right here and type this code out in your Visual Studio Code so that you can do it side by side. I'll give a few seconds. Yep, I think that should do. So I have this code here. Let me copy it and paste it inside the body tag again. So all of this would go under the body tag because it's the content that you want to display in inside the web page and not the metadata. As you can see, it's not indented properly here the way I wanted it to. So H3, and then it moved back to the leftmost, which is not what we want. So if you can select this code and click on tab, press tab, it would move it by itself. There's a shortcut for any of you who's copy pasting this stuff. Yes, so that should help. And as you can see this code, we're creating a header, a heading, which says this is the table, and the table tag with the border 1. So border basically defines the border thickness of the table. I'll show you guys how it looks. Caption is the heading of the table, and TR defines the table row, table header, and every single row instance inside the table will be enclosed within the table row tags, table row and slash tr and slash tr, and every entry inside the row will be td. So I'll save this and show it. So that way it's better for you guys to understand. As you can see, we have this is the table in heading 3 font, and we have a table with border 1. I'll show you guys what happens if we change the border size or border this quantity to from 1 to 2 to 3 or whatever. And caption is a caption for the table, major cities in US and population, as you can see. And table row basically creates an entry of a row inside the table, and table header, th tag, defines the table header. So city and population are the headers, and New York City and 8,930,000 is an entry. So wherever there's an entry, you'd use the TD tag, and wherever you have a table header, which would just ideally be 1 for a table, you would use the TH tag. So let me show you how that looks. So city and population are the table headers. As you can see, they're highlighted and they're kind of bold in a way. And every other, you would use the TH tag for this. So the TH tag stuff will be enclosed within the table row. So you would open a TR tag, inside that a TH tag with city and TH tag with population, close the TR tag. The next row will be a new TR tag, and you're, instead of using your TH, because you already have your table headers, you would use TD. Your TD would contain New York City, close TD, and your population, and so on. As you can see here, we contain New York City, Los Angeles, and Los Angeles population enclosed within the TD tags, which would be the entry, and so on. And we would close the table off with the slash table command, and it is all enclosed in the body. So it's pretty straightforward. But you might have a question. So we have only 2 table headers. We have city and population, and we have 2 entries in each. What happens if we put on a 3rd entry, right? Let's say we put on for New York City population, and let's say, what do we put? Let's say the literacy rate or something like that, right? Let's say 80, just for the fun of it. And let's close the TD tag. Let's save it and let's reload. Let's see what happens. As you can see here, the table does not have 3 headers, so it doesn't create anything else apart from city and population, but it does include the extra row that we added to the code. So as you can see, New York City has 3 rows. That entry has 3 rows. Sorry, 3 columns, 3 entries inside that row. So you can see that New York City, 8,930,080 are all displayed, but it's not really a proper table because it doesn't follow the structure of the table that we defined with our code. You can experiment with this, go beyond what's taught, and try out a few things to figure out what happens and understand HTML properly. That's the best way to do it. I'd suggest that. So that's tables covered. I'll show you how to use the web console. This is a little advanced. You probably wouldn't be using this at a basic HTML level, but you would be needing it for your upcoming lectures probably. And I'll show you how to do it. So in your web console, in whatever browser that you're using, I'm using Google Chrome right now. Click on this might be a burger menu, depending on what app you're using. Click on the settings thing and go down to more tools. In more tools, go down to developer tools, you'll find this. If you click on that, you would see the entire code, whatever we coded, right? You would see the doc type HTML, head, which doesn't show up, and elements. This basically shows every element of your, you guys might have done this for normal web pages. If you right click and do inspect element, it'll open the exact same thing. And you would see which parts of body is basically the body of the code. H3 is the heading, and it shows where the heading is. It's a very intuitive way to learn, and I kind of like it. So table shows where your table is in the page, closing of body and HTML. You can go to console. This would show you all the errors, if there were any errors, or if you wanted to correct your code from errors, it would show up here. So this is what you would use. You can see sources, my file version history, network, and you'll have all sort of advanced data that you might need on your web page. Let's get back. You can use it for troubleshooting errors in your code, as I mentioned. I'll go through W3C validator as well. So copy the link, or you can type it out. It's a pretty simple enough link, validator.w3.org. So this is a very commonly used website for validating your code. So to check if your code is right or wrong. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to show you guys what happens if you change the border. So let's change it to 3. In your table, if you change the border, so as you can see here, it's a little thin. When I reload, it becomes a little thicker, as you can see, with a thicker black line around the entire table. So you can play around with the border tag and whatever else you need. So let's copy paste this code and see what it says. So W3C validator is what we would use for checking errors in our code. If you wanted to see anything. Oh, did I paste in the wrong place? Oh, my bad. Validate by direct input. This is what you would select. So I did validate by URL. So you can just give the URL of your website, but we don't have a URL yet. So it's just a direct input. Instead of doing that, you can just paste your entire code here in W3C and check for any errors. And it'll show you everything after going through the code. It might show you, it's for example, it shows an error here. The border attribute in the table element is obsolete. It is not, but so let's try removing the border attribute and see what happens, right? Save. And if we go back to our first web page, it doesn't show a border. So in this case, it might be a little wrong, but in most other instances, it will show you right errors. And it says, warning, HTML lang started to declare document. Okay, again, warnings are not usually, warnings don't stop your code from running. Warnings are for general good practices, and errors are what usually stops your code from running. But in our case here, it works just the way we want it to work. And predominantly, if it does work the way you want it to work, you don't have to check it in W3C. But if it doesn't, if you don't see the output that you want, if your output is not the desired output, then you might have to check it in W3C, and it'll show you where the error is. As you can see, our border works properly, but for some reason this throws it. It might happen once in a while. Yeah, click on validate with direct input tag, copy and paste the code from your development environment to the text box, click check button, and note that if the web page was displayed, there shouldn't be any errors. So you don't have to check if the web page behaves the way you want it to behave. W3 schools. This is a very important resource that pretty much everybody who learns HTML or anything related to web development would have used at some point. You guys can go through this. It has everything you would ever need. It's like your encyclopedia for HTML. So go through the left-hand pane where it shows HTML home. It will give you the code for every single thing. You can run the code here in their own compiler and show you examples. It's a very well explained tutorial per se, and it goes through HTML in detail, and it has pretty much anything you ever need to know about HTML. And this would be a good place to start. You can go through all of these. A lot of them might be out of scope for you right now, but you can go through stuff like tables, lists, the stuff we covered today. You can add images, links to your web page. You can read ahead if you want on that. We'll go through that stuff. You can create forms. You can go through the entire sort of HTML course. So it's a really good place to learn more information and details on HTML. So feel free to check out W3 Schools. And another important thing that I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention in class today was please don't copy paste the code from this onto your assignments, because when we check your assignments for plagiarism, we stick to what was taught in class. So if you use something that either Professor Anlau or I did not teach in class, something really complex, we would clearly know that you guys have taken it off the internet, Stack Overflow, or I don't know, W3 Schools. Never copy paste code from websites. Learn from this code. So learn, say, pick up the tag from this code from W3 Schools or any other website that you learn. When you Google something, learn what that code does and use it for your own purpose. Don't ever copy paste or pull off stuff from the internet. It's a very big giveaway that you've copied. We can easily tell, trust me, we've programmed for a long time, and both Professor Lau and I can tell when someone is copied and just copy pasted code from the internet. So please don't do that. Try to understand the code. If you don't understand anything, please come to me during office hours or lab hours, and I will be more than happy to explain everything in detail. Yeah, so let's understand the code and work it along with that. I couldn't take attendance yesterday because of all the technical issues that we had. So please use the link. I'll try to add, since it's in YouTube, I'll try to add the pop-up that comes up where you can just click on the pop-up and it'll take you to the link. But if not, you know where to find this file I showed you guys yesterday. I'll show it to you again. It'll be uploaded on Canvas. Let me open Canvas. Log in. And if any of you haven't, please set up two-factor authentication. It's really helpful, an additional layer of security. I haven't gotten, oh, my bad. Yep. So now that I'm in, this is starting lecture 1, but since a lot of you weren't aware of it yesterday, I'll show you again. You go to courses, computer applications for business, which is the course, files. Inside files, go to recitation information, this or this, you can click either. Inside that, look out for my name. My name is Praveen. Again, if some of you hadn't watched the first lecture, click on section 1 and 7, and you'll have all the documents. You can open this for my information. It'll have my email address, my name, my office hours, where my office hours are, my lab support hours, my recitation locations. Again, this is posted for your reference, and also go through a brief overview of the course. This says everything that you need to know about the course. Attendance points, a lot of you hadn't filled out the first form. So I will be lenient in this case, and I will allow it because a lot of you weren't aware. But please attend class. You have 4 points just for attendance that I can give out, which I really don't want to cut, from you, take it away from giving it to you guys. I want all of you to get 4 and 4 in that. And these 4 points, another extra 4 points I have to give away in terms of quizzes, worksheets, or whatever. I can pick what I want to do with it, and I will make sure to make it as easy as possible for all of you to get 4 points. But yeah, you just have to be a little attentive in class and be proactive and participate. I can tell you this, I'll give one of them as you guys will have to create a cheat sheet for your exams, for your midterm exams and your final exams. And I will give you extra credits for that, a certain amount of points for that. I fully haven't decided what cheat sheet yet, but I'll make sure to keep you guys posted on that. You'll get more information on that later. And remaining points might be for example, like we did tables today. If I did in class, I might just ask you to create a table and show me. And that might be for one extra credit point, and so on. So please don't miss out. And the first assignment, the extra credit assignment, is due this Friday. Please get done with that. Some of you aren't done with that yet. It's the easiest 2 points you get in this course. So get that done. We don't have free lates for extra credit assignments. It's due the day it's due. So just get done with it, and you'll get 2 easy points. And you'll find week one's stuff here, the slides for the attendance form, and every other link that was shown in the video. And today's lecture, the links will be in this. Go here, click on my lecture PDF, and you can just scroll all the way down and you'll find it in the last slide. Takes a while for it to load. Yep. So click on the Google form and fill it out. I've also included, I'm not signed in, but if you're signed in, you'll see it. I also asked you guys just a small question again to interact with you. I don't think we got to interact yesterday. So yeah, it's something that I work on. I try to interact with you guys so that we maintain a good rapport for the rest of the semester. It'll be better that way for both of us, to all of us, to get our doubts clarified or whatever. And I was also thinking about creating either a GroupMe or a Discord chat if you guys wanted to, so that you can easily reach out to me if you're not able to visit office hours or lab hours on time. So let me know if that works for you guys. Email me, or I don't know, let me know in the Google form if it works for you guys, and we can do something like that as well. That's about it. That's for today's lecture. Thanks a lot for patiently attending yesterday's lecture and sitting through all the technical issues that we faced. And if you've been through the entire video of this video, I'm really glad you did, and I hope you learned something from it. Good luck for your assignment. This covers everything you need for assignment 2, and I expect you guys to do really well because we've gone through everything. And if you have any issues with the assignments, again, feel free to reach out to me during office hours or lab support hours, and I will explain the questions or go through some stuff that you might want to finish your assignment. That's about it. Thank you.